Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
How would you like to make your first million? And today we have special guest joining us from San Francisco, United States. Her name is Apryl, and she's the founder of ConversionSG. So, tell us, Apryl, what are the 5 steps to make your first million?
Well, thank you, Harry. What I really like to focus on is making sure that you have like a really great funnel. And that starts with step 1, which is really mapping out the customer journey. A lot of folks do this maybe in hindsight, back looking after they already have some sort of customer journey. But if you're starting out, mapping out what you want that experience to look like from the very beginning is probably the best place that you can start. And that gives you kind of like the key touch points along the way where you want to create a customer experience. The key there that I like to tell folks is to focus on what emotion that you want your brand to really help make your customers feel. And if you can emulate that through that experience at every touch point all the way through, it kind of just gives you a lens to look through and say, does this touch point really give that emotion to our customer? So that would be great step 1. From a step 2 experience, we really say, like, make sure that you streamline your processes and optimize for a best user experience. So if you're an e-commerce company, it might be how many clicks do they have to go through before they find your product, add it to cart, and buy. I think that is something everyone can identify with. But if you're a tech company, it's also very similar. Like, what steps does someone have to go through to learn about your product before they could either add to cart and buy? What does that experience look like? And then it doesn't stop there. Once they do buy, what's that experience when they first jump into your product? What might that experience be? And is that creating a really positive experience? So really optimizing for making it as simple as it possibly can and as few as many steps as it can, with also making sure that you're giving the customer that desired experience of step 1. Then number 3 in my step process is really testing and refining. I think a lot of folks think, hey, I did my website, it's up, and now I don't have to worry about that. And unfortunately, everything in marketing needs to be tested, needs to have data that you are looking at back behind the scenes, and needs to be refined. Most often, things aren't going to work the very first time you do them, and that doesn't mean that that strategy isn't working for you. So if you send out an email campaign and you hear crickets, you have to look at what actually was happening within that experience. So if you don't get the open rates, is it the subject line? If you're getting the open rates, but you aren't getting the response rates, is it the offer? Is it how you've conveyed that offer? Or is it the right prospect in the right list? And is there a match of that? So there's all of these pieces of the puzzle that you'd say that kind of give you clues to whether you've got it right or not. And either way, you're finding out data and you're able to test and refine and work on that and keep tweaking it until you get something that works for your brand. Number 4 is really about trying to create some sort of personalization in the experience. And that is, you can increase engagement both with your customers once they've purchased, but also beforehand, trying to drive as much personalization as you possibly can. And that's different than categorization. A lot of us do categorization. And when you're first starting out, you have the ability of time to make that experience as personalized as you possibly can, because you could maybe personally be involved, right, with those customers and make that experience great, so that they're giving you great customer stories, testimonials, and they're singing your praises, which is just going to make it a lot easier for your brand to expand. And then making sure that you have Number 5 would be just analyze and measure your success. Know where your successes are, know where you are failing in terms of, marketing and marketing spend, and don't necessarily, if it's not working one area for you, divert that attention to another area that is, and press the, on button even more in that area. As long as you have something going in marketing in one area that's working, you can really grow.
That's fantastic, April. And I think that one word that you repeat a lot in this sequence of 5 steps is the word experience. And people, with the consumers, people, we think that we're selling a product and people just buy it, and that's the end of it. But in the end of the day, it's the experience that that this client have, what actually made them enjoy the product, made them to come back. So how you turn a simple product that is you just buy and sell in an experience for the user, so they can come back and again, they become your fans and they can tell all their friends?
Yeah, that's a really great question. It is about them really understanding the story of the brand, and that's happening more prevalently than anything else. The other is that they're more likely to come back and buy again if they see that other people like them are buying again. We are creatures of habit, and we are also creatures of the people that we aspire to be and who we spend our most time with. So if you can communicate with that buyer, or that customer, we'll say, in a way that really helps them understand and see who is also buying. People like you also did this. People like you also were a part of our club. Creating those experiences that they can purchase again in a community, right? So that they can really find relationships there. I've heard an awful lot in the tech community as I, talk to a lot of leaders across various different organizations, that there is just as easy where people are buying quicker, right? Because we're shortening that cycle. We're forgetting that there's middle stages of like awareness, top of the funnel, middle, and bottom of the funnel, and we're driving faster and faster. There's pressure to go from top to bottom. And while we might be doing that effectively from a marketing standpoint, what's happening on the other side is that there's no brand affinity. And so people aren't getting that experience. They don't have a relationship with that brand. And therefore, it's easier for them to just quit that solution on the other side. And so we're seeing churn driving up.
Or to switch to the competitor, to a cheapest things. And yeah,
that's right. Because you've mostly been competing on, likely at that point, price or an offer or a pressure for them to at least try it. No pressure, just go ahead and try it. So they do, and then churn, is able to increase when that experience, my step one, that user experience or customer journey doesn't really work out very well for them, and they don't feel like loved by the brand, and they don't get that big, shiny hug at the end of it. So it makes it even more prevalent for us to either extend that cycle and properly let someone go through those stages so that they get the feel for the brand 100%. And they really have a desire to want to be your customer, or ensure that your customer journey really creates such a friendly onboarding experience that people really get and understand that they're now part of a community.
Yeah, I think that I talk about this a lot, right? Like, the quality of your product, it doesn't really matter for you to sell one time. But if you want clients to come back and you want more, that your clients become into your fans and they bring their friends, now it's completely different ball game. You have to have a good product, but that's not only that. You have to build the brand and an experience about the whole process. So you have, like we said, you can turn your clients into fans, and they can bring you client, which you will make your customer for acquisition for your client close to zero if they take their friends and they become your fans. But in order for that to happen, that cycle has to be complete. So there is no shortcut in marketing, correct, April?
There's no shortcut in marketing, and there's no quick win either. I think it is the rarity that you get something that goes from 0 to thousands really quickly. You really have to do the work and the testing and knowing your audience and having the right product, having something valuable that they're going to love, testing that in a really smart way, understanding if you've got it right, being willing to be vulnerable and make tweaks and not feel like you have it 100% correct all of the time, and really listening to your consumer and what they want more of.
So tell us how you decided to open this company.
This is a really strange way that I kind of got to here.
Tell us. We're looking forward to hear it.
I came from working in technology companies. I, grew up in my career at Sage, where I eventually ran 3 product lines there.
Sage. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. I know, a very large, acquisitive company. So I really learned so much in that experience, and got to work with not only some phenomenal leaders, but also some phenomenal women leaders, which Sage had a great number of women leaders as part of, their culture, which was not the norm during that time. And so then I went out into their channel. I worked for their largest reseller in the US. I ran sales, marketing, customer success, helped launch some practices while I were there, and ran a partner magazine as well that we launched, and learned just so much during that time about marketing, and really got to get into content and SEO. I was one of the first users of HubSpot during that time. So I really kind of grew with HubSpot's journey to watch them into the wonderful company that they are today. And then I wanted to kind of like get out of the ERP space because I had spent so much of my career there. I wanted to learn about AI. So I kind of jumped over to Bloomreach, where I ran their advisory team, working with some of the top brands in the world like Staples, Gap, Neiman Marcus, Albertsons, Williams-Sonoma, you name it. Those top brands were working with Bloomreach, and we worked on helping them from a conversion strategy perspective. 2020 came. I was a little burnt out, like I think a lot of people were, and decided to kind of take a pause on my corporate career and go into coaching. So I got my coaching certification. I got certified in hypnosis, neurolinguistics programming, to really help entrepreneurs do that. And while I was coaching and working with a lot of founders and a lot of entrepreneurs, marketing came coming up as an issue for a lot of them. And they weren't having a lot of success in that area. And too many times I got asked, can't you just do this for us? And so I did. I kind of like went back to my roots and found some great people to bring onto my team, so that we would really have the resources available to be able to offer those types of services. I started working in that kind of fractional CMO perspective. And then we kind of last year launched into the conversion optimization space. So I have a great team of conversion optimization specialists that work with us. We do rapid testing for brands. We can turn around things in a 24 to 48 hour period where we can make changes and launch a new test for people, so that they can maximize how many tests and how much data they can get in 1 year. So a weird journey, I would say, to where I got to where I am.
Sounds amazing. Very excited. Yeah. I think that one tech company that they are my friends, they are partnered with Sage actually.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And they do operations and Sage is the partner in United Kingdom. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a tech company actually, founded by my friend. Anyway, so here's the thing, right? We find a lot in tech companies that you have the normal scenario where you have a software developer or a team of the software developers that they want to create the product, and they put all the energy, time, money, effort, and everything, created that MVP. And then after they are exhausted with everything, they want to give 1% of the company, or they only have 1% of the time of the resources to market the product to get a market fit. So which advice do you have for these tech entrepreneurs, which unfortunately they are failing, and most of them, if they don't repurpose very quickly what they're doing, they gonna go out of business. So what message do you have for these tech entrepreneurs that they're not taking marketing and sales seriously?
Well, I think it is just, it's kind of like you go and align yourself to what you know best. And if that is your comfort space, it makes sense that they spend time and effort building that really great product. But just as we've kind of talked about earlier, just because you build it doesn't mean that the audience will come. And very rarely will somebody just stumble upon a product because there's a website and all of a sudden it will go into mass amount of success.
And what are the chances for you to get the product right the first time? It's the client who tell you.
That's right. Right? That's right. So I recommend always to try and have some design partners that work with you throughout the process of you developing. So reach out, do some, interviews. And it's really easy to just reach out to people on LinkedIn, tell them that you're building a product. I'd love your insights. You would be key. People really feel honored to give you that kind of feedback. So there's a great chance for you to do that kind of early on. And those then might become your early customers. So I think that's first place. And it's never too late to start that process, even if you have the product built already. Secondly, the cheapest and most effective campaigns that you can run, and people are probably going to, hate this, but LinkedIn and LinkedIn campaigns, if your messaging is right, a good connection campaign, connecting with your ideal prospect, if you have something of value to offer them and you position that right, then they will want to have a conversation with you, because if it's a pain point that they have and you are solving it, they'll want to talk to you about it if that's top 100%. Of mind. So that's the first step that is very low cost, right? It costs you in time to do that. And maybe you have time if you don't have the customers right now to be servicing. So that, you can send, I think, up to 100 connection requests a week, make a great list in Sales Navigator and go down that list. There's automations that do it if you want to use an automation tool, but sometimes they don't give that real human feel. And so be careful about the ones you choose. You don't want the one where someone accepts your request and then it slaps them with a message right away, because it just feels disingenuous, right? So be careful of those. Second is email. But in order to do email, you got to set up some inboxes appropriately. There's some protocols there for cold email, for testing. Make sure you warm up those inboxes. Make sure that you have the right technology to then have all of those coming through a unified mailbox. I won't bore your folks with the details, but read about it, or reach out to someone like myself. I'm happy to explain the process to someone and tell them the tool set that they need if they wanted to run that themselves. But you can get then more data quicker if you're able to send mass amounts of emails to people. If you're only able to send like 30 a day through one inbox, and it's going to take you 6 months before you even know if you have your messaging right. If you can send 3,000 in a month, well, then you can get data in 1 month that's going to tell you if you should make some changes.
And then, April, let's talk about women in tech, because before you were working in Sage and you have been working in most of the technology companies. So how you manage to navigate this environment that is usually male dominated, and how you manage to succeed and to get your voice heard in such a male dominant space and succeed? Any advice for any women in tech listening to this podcast?
Well, I think that, I was very fortunate that, in my Sage days, there were a lot of women leaders to look up to and aspire to be like.
That's fantastic.
And that's not necessarily the example, that every company and every experience has. When I went to Bloomreach, there was only one other woman in a high-level position at the organization.
Wow.
That was quite a shift from working at Sage. And then when I was at Blytheco, the partner I worked for, we had over 55% of our workforce was women there. So it was quite a shift for me to kind of be in this like tech valley, very male dominated experience. So I get that.
How you survive?
And how did I survive? I think by bringing data and making, I kind of have a 3-step process when presenting information, where I try to bring people through like the steps that I use to decide the factors, the data that was involved, and then the 3 things that I considered, the 3 different directions we could take. And I present it in that way. I learned that from one of my bosses that I previously worked with that I thought was really smart, because in that 3-step process, you make people feel like they can have input into that and they're a part of the decision. So it's not a yes or no, it's a how do we? And then you got people, you pro and con those 3
You get them
solutions
involved,
against
you
each
can
other.
enroll them in the vision. And anyway, one of the three solutions that you're offering, you are okay with either of the 3.
That's right.
You're just presenting them and whatever.
And you might have your favorite within there, and maybe you've written some pros and cons that might help gear people towards a certain direction. But you also might find out information that you didn't consider, and you might get some surprising data that helps everybody come with a better. When you present 3, you have such like a 70% higher, greater chance for that solution to actually be more effective than if you're just doing an either or. So
what we teach, one of the things that we teach is public speaking around the world. We use this rule of 3 a lot to persuade. The audience is one of the most effective way to persuade, to make people buy into your idea. So,
and it's why most pricing models are in 3 as well. And so it creates just more collaboration. And as a woman in a male dominated environment, it doesn't make it feel combative, right? Then it's more collaborative. And so it's not my idea versus someone else's idea. It's our ideas together.
And it's not this woman is telling me what to do, because this is what the whole problem starts, and vice versa. So that's a great advice, actually. I love it. Yeah. Then April, tell us, why do you think that companies out there, when things go tough, like for example COVID and things like this, everybody think that it's a good idea to cut the budget for marketing and sales, right? And do the totally opposite, which is to put foot on the gas, because if people are not using more budget marketing and sales, your ads is gonna be cheaper, because nobody else is competing. So it seems like a no-brainer. So why every time that there is a COVID, there is an earthquake, something happen, the people get panic, and companies, when they get panic, the founders, the first thing they do is say, this is a brilliant idea. Let's cut the budget in marketing and sales in half. So what message do you have for these founders?
Well, for those founders, I won't take it as my message. The CEO that I worked for at Blytheco, Stephen Blythe, was a very avid, although he was a developer, he had this marketer within him, and it was the last department that he owned. He did always exactly what you said. He doubled down his spending in times where people were lightening up. And every single time his company, 35, 40 years that it's been in business now, he pushed the accelerator button, and especially on keywords and buying, he diversified his spending. And what happened is he was able to gain market share, so that when he was coming out of a slow period, he actually accelerated way faster because everyone else was on their heels. And so it's making sure that you have kind of like the coin saved away for that rainy day, so that you can do that. There's also some folks, Brian Bouliou, out of the Boston or Connecticut area. They own a firm, and what they do is they actually do market analysis of the predictors of when we're going to go into maybe a drier period. And they do that based on all of these various different factors, like 98% is their accuracy rate. But what they do is you can actually align your business and take your financials and put it up against their model. So they can tell you when it's actually going to impact your company, because your company is going to have different types of customers and all of that sort of stuff. So you can look at the historical against their historical and then predict the future of how that, any downturn or prediction in either a downturn or upturn will impact your organization. That way you can be thinking of it very mindfully and very forward thinking about how you want to save for that rainy day so that you can do a strategy like that and be really smart with your marketing.
So then, April, so tell us a little bit more about your company, because if I understood correctly, your company have the ability to become an extension of a CMO of any tech company or any commerce out there. You already have the team and the expert in this area, and I think this is a great solution because especially in the tech space, you have the software developer. So sometimes bringing a partner on board like you guys with the whole team that can create the whole 360 roadmap and experience and create that tranche for the company would be brilliant. So what are the challenges that you have encountered doing that, and how you overcome these challenges?
In terms of, working with those types of founders?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, what we offer usually first is some sort of analysis. So we can take a look at a landing page, we can take a look at a website, and we'll tell you kind of like the tips and that we would do, like our first step in the process. This would be our first stab at making things improve. But of course, if they don't have traffic coming to that website, then that messaging is falling on deaf ears anyway. We've got to make sure that we get traffic to that site so that we can. So, that's usually where we start, and then kind of crafting out what does that ramp period look like. And if they're pre-revenue, how do we get those first customers? Some of the strategies like LinkedIn and email would be the first place that we would start, really low and slow. But it's also, our firm just doesn't believe in going out and spending money on ads if you haven't tested your messaging. And so we always like to run these, let's start messaging people on LinkedIn and see if we have the right call to actions. Let's message people and see if they like the way that we're talking about the product. If we get it right there and we're starting to get good traction, and we move into email, and then with email, we're getting good traction, again, that test and learn, then now we feel confident. Okay, let's go do some buying of keywords. Let's go and start spending money because we've already tested that we've got the right message and the right offer, and we know who the audience is. You don't want to be figuring that out when you're buying keywords at the same time. And I find that if you work with a firm that does ads, they're going to sell you ads. If you work with a firm that does email acquisition, they're going to send you email. What we really look at is, what's the budget? What do we have to accomplish from a business perspective? What's the pressure? Maybe you have investors involved. What's the pressure?
What the 360 strategy
exactly
that they can do with the resources that they have at the moment, correct?
Exactly. And we fit in as a part of their team. Our clients feel like, hey, we'll sit in an executive meeting. I will be there personally in an executive meeting. We only work with a certain number of clients at a time. We don't oversubscribe, especially on the startup side of things, because we have a boutique feel. We want you to feel like you're getting an expert sitting at the table who can look at the business challenges that you're faced with and be a part of that decision-making in a room, and also say, here's how we should message these things. Here's how we would work around them together.
Absolutely. Then, April, what are the biggest, the advice that you have for those entrepreneurs that have the product, right? and they need more traction, or the organic thing that you describe about messaging LinkedIn, that's really powerful. But one thing is to get the traction. Completely different ball game is to build that brand, to build this core message, to create all that experience. This is a 360 marketing solution that takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. So how can you describe your process? So, for example, now you said, okay, process number one, you write some message in LinkedIn, and then to see if there is a response, that you go to email. Then now we can buy keywords. Okay, at what point of the stage you guys focuses in get the right story, the right message, the right brand, and to improve the customer experience?
We start right at the very beginning with that because, but it's a little bit, I think, especially in startups, because the need is to get those customers, is we're kind of driving the bus down the freeway and changing the tires at the same time. So it's a little bit of like test and learn, test this message, test this, test that, and see if what we're finding that sticks. All of that comes back to, yes, a brand identity and that brand emotion that I talked about in the very beginning. We've got to identify, like, what is it that we want people to feel? And then it allows us to write messaging that conveys that message very clearly and also articulates the product very quickly. People don't buy because of a feature or a functionality. They buy because of an emotion. They feel like they're either going to be transformed, they feel like it's going to help them be a kind of different person, whether that's in business or not. People don't want to put their jobs on the line for making a decision about a certain software, right? So they've got to feel secure. They've got to feel trust and high trust. How do you do that when you don't have customer testimonials yet? That's where those design partners really come into play. Or, for instance, with one brand right now, we're considering just running a limited, like, first 10 people free, so that we can get those in the board, on the board. Of course, that's our acquisition cost that we're paying to get that, customer in. But that's of somebody who's, maybe got enough LinkedIn following that we have enough people that we could do that with. So it is also about not just your own brand from the company perspective, but how strong is your brand as the founder? And could you even launch something like that to, a community? It gives you options if you do. If not, then there's other, tactics that we might have to take.
Okay, so then April, because you see, your company has strategy group attached to it. So you guys work in a group and you design the strategy to improve the company. Now let's talk about the e-commerce. I think that when it comes to e-commerce, if you can increase the conversion rate of a company by 2%, 3%, 5%, this could be massive, especially if it's a huge, a big e-commerce. Yeah. And I think that there is a parameter that we look at it in our e-commerce website that we have, which is the abandonment rate. So basically how many people come and leave without buying. And because I think that most of the time these people don't buy, but maybe they don't buy because they have a phone call, they got distracted, or something happened. That doesn't mean that they're not gonna buy. That means that they don't buy when you're ready to sell. They buy when they are ready to buy. And it comes a lot of remarketing and a lot of strategies, and have been a lot of change in policy with Apple and so on. So it's more difficult to remarketing now than what it was before. So how your company is navigating these challenges and how you are coming out successful out of this?
Yeah, well, the very first thing that I will say is for an e-commerce brand, and we've tested this over multiple brands, and I can tell you that a landing page will convert better than a product page all day long. So if you're taking them to a product page, we can automatically increase your conversion rate by just taking to a landing page. Why? because the landing page we can lay out with enough information on that and tell the story of that particular product, which drives them down a conversion funnel. Then we can take them to the add to cart page when they stick it in their cart and create that experience that's still a flow that shortens.
And they only have one choice. They only have one choice.
Exactly. And a lot of what's missed is FAQs at the bottom of the page, right? A lot of people miss FAQs. And if it's a heavily competitive product, why not create a competitive table, which talks about where your product is priced or where your product is better? The other thing is that testimonials right up at the top and 5-star ratings are always going to convert better. So if you have those, bring those higher up on the page. That's why a landing page, because you can include all of that information, not just what's in your Shopify, experience, creates such a better way for people to buy. Now, if you've gotten them all the way through, a lot of people use, the first time they hit their website, you're going to give them a coupon code, and that's how you get their email address so that you can retarget them. I do have a company that I work with. It's in my portfolio. So they're one of my clients, but they do this amazing personalization with SMS. And we're not talking about segmentation. We're talking about personalization, which means they alter messaging, time of message, a personalized product page, a personal SMS with a picture of the product that they were looking at, and leads them to a landing page with just that product on it.
Wow, that's
all
amazing.
Done very simply for an SMB person, if you're a small owner or one marketing team, to be able to set that campaign up from the very beginning. So if you are grabbing those and you have abandoned cart, using a product like that is just going to get you edges above what anyone else does and gives you a better chance of grabbing that customer and getting them back into your cycle. Most of the time, they're going to go out to check competitor pricing. They're going to go out to do more research, which means you just didn't give them enough information on the page to convert.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of e-commerce, they leave a lot of money on the table because they're spending more and more and more money trying to bring strangers to the website and to people that already been there, that already landed, that they for any reason they haven't taken the decision. They kind of forget about these people. And I think that these people are a big asset because they landed for a reason. The reason that they at that moment in time could be quite different. One of the reasons could be that they're not interested in the product, but the other reason is, I don't know, they're thinking about, they want to check the competition. Maybe the kid scream and they need to go and look after. We don't know. But as marketers, we have to make sure that we continue the communication channel with that prospect until we arrive to
the
decision. Now, it has been difficult because of Apple changed the policies and now it's more difficult for marketers to retarget those clients. Any new
just think about
out there?
I would just say, just something as easy as adding a wish list where someone has to log into their wish list. Now you've got their information. You just have to be creative. There's no, working against these privacy policies. There's still a lot of people that are giving you access to their information. You just need to offer something of value in order to get that.
I agree 100%. When you book in a flight, you are happy to give your house address, your phone number, the name of your cat. You don't want to miss the flight. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You don't want to miss the flight for anything in the world. So, if you manage to have a product that I have another question for you. Yeah, if you want to have a product that people are really, really interested, they want it, they are no they're gonna give you the information, and they're gonna give you permission for marketing, right? So what of your view in short forms against long forms? Yeah. By feeling in terms of conversion, there is a big debate. I'm not gonna tell you my opinion now, I'm gonna tell you after.
Well, I'm gonna tell you it depends.
Okay.
Because it depends greatly on what the product is.
The product is.
And it depends on the trust level that somebody has with the brand. So, for instance, we have a client in financial services. They're a financial services tech company, tech plus service. And people will fill out a very long multi-page form in order to book a meeting with them.
Interesting.
Right? They've tested it. We've tested it back and forth, short form versus long form. Something about the long form increases trust in that capacity. There's a well-known brand called Calm. I'm sure everyone's familiar with Calm. You do go to Calm's homepage. Calm has a survey. It is a multi-step survey that converts very, very well. They have tested this multiple times against multiple different, varieties of things. And time again, that converted better than any other thing that they have done. But again, what's the brand affinity and the trust level with a brand like Calm? It's a very well-known brand, has very good longevity in the market. They have high trust. They have people like Oprah Winfrey, on their Matthew McConaughey, and his voice. So there's a big affinity for that brand. Your trust is higher. You're more likely to go through a lengthy process. If you're a brand new brand and you don't have that high trust authority, it's going to be pretty hard to get somebody to go through a multi-step, longer form process. So you better keep it as short and sweet as you possibly can until you have that authority and you can command that longer
your
form.
brand, and then you can, in our experience, long form convert better than shorter one, because clearly the people that fill the long form, they're very interested in what you offer. That's why they want to give you all the details. So the same example
That's right.
with the flight. However, I agree 100% with you. If you're new in the market, if you're starting out, if you have a startup and you haven't built that credibility yet, it's better to keep it short so you can have some data which you will need in the future to get your traction, your product market fit. Yeah?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Last question. If I'm a tech entrepreneur and I'm based in United States, and I need a partner that comes as a CMO partner in my business, how they can find you guys, how the process work? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, easy enough to, connect with me on LinkedIn. Great to either start the conversation there, or Apryl, my first name, at ConversionSG.com. You can send me an email. So really easy to get a hold of us there. Our website is ConversionSG.com. So you can book an appointment straight onto my calendar. You will get me, no one else when you do that, even though I have a team behind me, and I might bring some of my team members with me to that meeting. But usually we'll ask you like, hey, give us a web page to review, or give us some of your marketing materials so that we can kind of take a look at that, and we'll do an evaluation. So when we show up to that call, we're bringing you some information that whether you do business with us or not, you can take with you. And hopefully that's going to be really helpful. That's our gift. We are here to support entrepreneurs and to make sure that they feel like they've got the information, right? That they need. We're super passionate about, people being able to do that. My dad sits right there, was an entrepreneur. I grew up in an entrepreneurial household. So it is in my blood to make sure that they feel supported. So that's where we start in the process. The next place would be just determining what's really needed and what's the right approach. And once we understand that, then we present to you what that's going to cost. Usually our contracts are 3 to 6 months. We're really easy to work with from that perspective. We don't want, especially startup founders, to feel like they're locked in too long. We like to prove ourselves. Like, you're going to like us and you're going to stay working with us if you're getting the results that you want and you're having a positive experience with us as a partner with you. So we're not like other companies that will say like, hey, sign on for a year or whatever that might be. By the way, people stay for years with us. It's just that we don't require that in our contracts. And if it feels right, then we get started.
When this thing is working, it's a no-brainer for the company, because they're increasing the sales, so they have enough revenue to share with you guys, and they keep making more money. So tell us, last thing I'm curious about, is your dad happy that now you're an entrepreneur, or he's like still thinking, oh, my baby girl is taking so much risk?
Unfortunately, Yeah, unfortunately, I made this move into entrepreneurialism after my dad passed, and he was actually a big reason why I made that shift in my career because I really wanted to feel maybe happier and really giving back in a way that felt just really more wholesome and maybe contributing for the time that I have left on this planet. And even though I want to extend that as far as I possibly can with all of the technology and things coming out in these days. So he was a big inspiration for me. I hope he's watching and he's proud
Oh, he will be
of
very
that
proud
move.
of you. He will be
Yeah.
so yay. Uh, yeah. So I'm very happy for you, April. I wish you the best success and keep helping people, keep inspiring women, especially in the tech space. And I think that one day, I believe that one day we're gonna live in a world that all women get an equal pay and all women have the same amount of participation in the tech space that that men has is improving, but unfortunately very little. We need to talk more about that, to bring more women like you into the conversation, so more women get inspired and and move more the conversation. The other thing as well that we find shocking is that women they get way less funding than men in tech.
Yeah.
This is something that needs to be changed. I personally interviewed the Minister of Finance of Zimbabwe. I think like it was 6 months ago, 7 months ago, and this is what he told me. He told me, Harry, listen, we have a policy in our government where we give loans to farmers and they take this money, they plant some tomatoes, some vegetables, they make some profit, they pay the loan back, we lend them more money and they grow a little bit more and they pay back. Long story short, he said that the rate of people paying back the loans and asking for more money and paying back the loan is like 80% women and 20% men. So he told me that he's very happy to lend to women, this was Minister of Finance of Zimbabwe. So why I don't know why we have this blockage in that space where women are actually more conscious about risk than men and more responsible about. I mean, let's not say more responsible. That we said that we're different, right?
Yeah.
We just not the same. John Gray. We had the pleasure to meet him. Yeah, he wrote that book. Women are for Mars and men's no women
Yeah.
men's are for Mars and women are for Venus. Yeah, I think that's the
Yes.
John Gray. Yeah, we had the pleasure to meet him here in London a few years ago, and he sat with us and with me and my girlfriend. He explaining, guys, you are different. The expectation of that our boy have or how they work is completely different than women, and you have to meet these expectations so you can have a solid relationship. So we were talking a lot about that. So women, we are definitely different than men. However, that doesn't mean that they are less. They have the same power, they have the same ability. Definitely, they have the ability to become a great entrepreneur like you are. And I think that the more we talk about this, the more we can move forward in that direction. Okay?
I think the biggest thing, Harry, that I see is that recently I've been working with a female entrepreneur that is in the startup community. I think she's going to be wildly successful. While building
Oh,
her startup deck, she kept coming back to, well, I don't have this in the product yet, so I can't put it in there. And I think women tend to want to be really accurate about what they're committing to. And I kept sharing with her, what you're putting in your deck, you're selling the vision of what you're creating, not what you have today. This is different than what you put on your website for gaining for customers. That's what you have today. And maybe you say like coming soon for features that are on coming soon. But when you're going to investors, you need to sell them the vision of what you're creating, which is different than what
absolutely.
you have today.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think that, well, little by little, we will get there. Yeah. On the other
we
hand,
will.
boys, sometimes we oversell the thing, which is also not good. This pro is gonna do way, come and sell the better. Oh God, it's not gonna do any of this. So so it's about finding the balance, right? And
It is about finding the balance and for us to support each other so that,
absolutely,
we're really creating value in the world.
Yeah, let us know. We're not a lot of VC, so if those projects need funding, maybe we can make a few phone calls and help out somehow. And on that note, Apryl, thank you so much for the broadcast. Thank you so much for your time. We are very happy that you join us. And for all of you following this Unstoppable podcast, how brave entrepreneurs like Apryl break that wall and achieve the first million. See you in our next episode. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Harry.
Sure.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.